So I'm on my way to work, to school, for the first time since late March. And for those watching this later, it's the 21st of July. As you can hear, my voice is still a bit iffy. I think if I'm projecting it, it might sound a bit better, but I just don't want to yell in the car. I'm going to be completely honest and say I'm nervous because the Department of Education still don't think that kids can catch and pass on COVID. So it's only teachers and other staff who are supposed to social distance. That being said, our Premier said last night, or yesterday, if you don't need to be out, don't be out. If you can avoid crowds. Don't be where there's a large group of people. If you can't be somewhere where you can't social distance, then it's advisable that you might need to wear a mask. That's the first time she's actually said anything about wearing masks since this whole thing started. She was always touting the line of masks, you don't need masks, you don't need masks. But they're becoming mandatory in Victoria later this week with their explosion of cases. The cases in New South Wales are starting to grow, and there was one yesterday in a shopping centre near where my school is. And they had to say, like, if you've been at the shopping centre between these dates, you might need to get tested. If you get any symptoms, you need to get tested. That's the thing that I really hate, that they're still telling people to only get tested if they have symptoms, when there are so many cases of asymptomatic people catching it, going home, and infecting the whole family. That's how a lot of community spread is happening, because people catch it and they don't realise. I mean, if you could get bad symptoms, but they don't show up straight away. So you could have been infectious for a time before that. Then you could also be somebody who catches it and gets no symptoms at all and go along being completely asymptomatic, and you just go around, and if you don't take the care to social distance, wash your hands, wear a mask, anything like that, you could be passing it on to other people. The explosion in cases down in southwest Sydney from this case that came up from Melbourne weeks ago is quite concerning, because there's people coming in getting tested because they go, I went to that pub. I don't feel sick, but I went to that pub, and there's lines of people going there just to be sure, and they're finding people with cases. And then the health minister or somebody from the health unit who's been their spokesperson, she came on yesterday and was urging young people, and they don't class children as young people, she was urging young people to be really vigilant and be careful, because COVID can affect young people, because there's now a 30-year-old in intensive care. So they're saying like young adults. And so she was saying, if you are out and you're somewhere where you can't social distance, wearing a mask might be advisable. So I'm going into school, and while everybody, I'm pretty sure, is going to be doing their best to social distance, all the adults, you walk into a staff room of about half a dozen people, everybody's talking, that's becoming aerosolized in the air. You don't know if somebody's got it asymptomatically. The staff at a school come from such a broad area. Like, I live an hour's drive from school, and from the pub down southwest Sydney, there is a case in the Blue Mountains of somebody who had been there, caught it, he came home. Because of the cases down there, he started to feel a bit off, thought, I better go and get tested. He went and got tested, came back positive, so his family all got tested, and they were all positive. And that's the thing, when people are in their homes, they're not going to think to, like, the health minister down in Victoria has basically said, like, people in the home aren't going to wear masks because you don't think of doing that. But I think you need to wear them when you're out in the community so that you don't have to wear them in the house. To be honest, look, most of my students are between the age of 16 and 18. They're young adults. They're not kids. They're social young adults. And because they're not being told to social distance by the Department of Ed, the government, I'm going to have to keep clear. I'm going to be wearing my mask the whole time. It's scary. I'm obviously susceptible to viruses if whatever I picked up before has done this, like to my breathing, my throat, and all that sort of stuff. So I'm susceptible to it. My wife is in the high risk category. I basically need to isolate myself from my wife, because while ever this pandemic is running and there's cases appearing, and while I have to be at work because they won't let me work from home, they won't do distance ed unless it becomes a massive explosion in cases again. Like Victoria has gone back to being distance ed. All their schools are closed in that area. I don't know if it's a whole state, but most of Melbourne and surrounding suburbs, their schools are all closed. Everybody has to social distance, has to teach and learn from home again. They've just gone back to school last week, or back to school. And there's a very real likelihood that could happen here again if people don't do the right thing in the community. I think it'll take an explosion in cases for that to happen. When I walked out of the house today, that was the last time I was going to be in the main section of the house. I'm now separated out into separate areas so that there's going to be no cross-contamination. There's going to be no chance that I could bring something home to her, because I'm not having that happen. We actually said goodbye yesterday. Have fun in isolation, she said. Said it again this morning, but last night when it was all like, this starts tomorrow, I get up early for work, I get ready, I leave the house. When I come back, I don't come back into the same section of the house. Well, back into school. It's interesting. The kids have been pretty good. Nobody's bat an eye about this. I've just had construction year 11 and they're like, it's for day one back. So they're like, they're okay. A lot of them has left their stuff at home from when I got taken home, they said. Even though they've been back for a while. And spending just time looking around this workshop trying to figure out where kids are up to, what's up to, what needs to be done. One of the first things I did was grab one of these old shelf brackets from the library that I got last term. Made a hand sanitizer station right at the door, so the kids can sanitize their hands as they come in or as they leave. And that was my first reminder. Sanitize your hands as you leave, guys. And I've got to find out if we've got disinfectant sprays for the tools and that sort of stuff, because some of the kids are actually talking about whether we're going to go into lockdown again because there's been a case local, and they're concerned about it spreading because of how quickly it spread down South Sydney. Well, this is the kids saying this, so it's recess, so I've still got 15 minutes left before Year 12 come in here, so I'm going to go and get something to eat. Okay, it's Friday, and I've got to say, I've just had Year 11 timber, and it feels so good to be back in the workshop. I don't know, I had a real depressive funk about me over the last couple of months, and it's just starting to lift. I think it's just the kids' enthusiasm to be in the workshop and doing stuff, and me being there with them. And there's one project here that's just been put up. Yesterday was the first day I had them for class, and yesterday he only had, I think, 3 of his little leg angle frames glued up. So he's gotten all this done in the 2 days. Another student had nothing yesterday. He's making one of my designs. So he's got his top just glued up. He cut all his pieces for his legs, cut all the biscuit joints to make the angle. It's just a smaller version of it. And they'll get glued up next week. But the enthusiasm in their voice and the fact that they're working and getting stuff done, and it feels good for them, it feels good for me. It's interesting that, really. I got year 9 in here a little later today, 12 construction later in the day, like last period, I think, over in the construction space. Just dawned on me that I've got year 9 in here. I said to the guys, I don't think there's any other classes in here, so you can just leave your stuff where it is. Oops. I'll get some stuff moved out of the way. Another good lesson, successful lesson. First time with year 9 this term. First time with year 9 since March. They had been doing some small bookends with my other teacher who took over the class. And some of them got them assembled today. They were up to that point. And so, this used to be the first project I would do with year 9, because it was a simple project to introduce them to doing a rebate joint, you can sort of see down here, and doing some screwing techniques, clearance holes, countersinking, screwing in, that sort of stuff. And it was interesting because they got this finished, and it is a simple project, but you could just hear the excitement in their voice here. Oh, we got it done. Now all I've got to do is sand and paint. And just hearing that, it's you can kind of tell that I'm pretty excited about being back in the class. I really did miss it a lot. And I can't remember if I said this earlier when I was in here, but I'll talk about it briefly. Big open space here now next to the table saw, because just before I'd left, my metal teacher had welded up this frame down the bottom, and we put the wheels on and got our thicknesser, nice big Hafco thicknesser, 15-inch one. Got that onto a removable trolley, because that used to sit right here next to the saw, and we were told it shouldn't be, which it shouldn't be because it was in the zone. And the big dust extractor for it was also sitting here. So they got both moved over into a space that one of my other staff really got involved in trying to rearrange this room a bit, and sort of moved everything across, got the whiteboard, got this cabinetry all moved across, ended up creating a nice big space here. And you got some PowerPoints put in for it, so all we need to do now is wheel the thicknesser out. You've got access to it from the main doors, and then this whole space in front of the room if you really needed to feed stuff through. And it means it's in a clear space, and it's also out of the way when we're not using it, because it doesn't get used a lot. It's only used by the seniors really, or if we're preparing timber. So that was an exciting thing to come back in and see. And we also I'd ordered these jets, Major Woodworking, air cleaner units. I used to have one up here. It basically died, had been there for years. So now I've got that one there and that one there. And they basically create a cyclone effect in the room, basically sucking in the dust and blowing out the air the other side. Unfortunately, you can see the filter on this side, and you can see the filter on the same side. When they were installing it, they put that one in exactly the way the old one was. that one's meant to face in the opposite direction, and they got that mixed up, so we're going to swap that over. And they did the same in the other workshop. So, and they're really good for having going, and they basically clear just the airborne dust out of the room to improve the air quality inside the classroom or inside the workshop. So now I've got 12 construction after lunch. It's lunchtime now, and then that's the end of the week. And I'm going to try and run around a couple of the other rooms and show you some of the other stuff that's happened since I haven't been here off on sick leave. Okay.